Hello. So I just wanted to share a few thoughts now that it is been 2 weeks to the day that I had my hysterectomy. I feel partly it's a proof of life video to let folks know how I'm feeling, but also I feel a sense of both obligation and opportunity to share more about my experience because I feel like so many folks with uteruses don't have a lot of information available to us that is rooted in like actual stories from folks. And so I just wanted to take a few minutes to do that. And so it's part personal and then also just part, knowledge that I learned along the way. So I feel like I'm doing really great. I've had the most incredible support team ever, of course, led by my darling wife, who's the best human I know, who just has gone above and beyond to make sure that I'm taken care of, that I'm supported, that I'm resting, that I'm remembering not to lift heavy things, including our pooch. And so, yeah, like words can't express how much I love her and adore her and could not be me or have gone through this process were it not for her. And then by way of an extended team of family who've checked in on me and just sent me well wishes and, prayed for me and things like that really makes all the difference. And so it's just yet again another reminder about how none of this can be done in isolation and that it really does take community in order to heal and to be well on this earth. And so it's just reinforces this idea that not only am I not alone, but that I don't have to do it alone. So that feels really nice. So I had a lot more feelings going into it than I thought I would. I always thought of my uterus as something that honestly just like caused me grief by way of giving me a period every month that I didn't want and or feel like I needed as a queer person who had no interest in having children. I just couldn't understand why I suddenly needed to have a period. And so I had a semi-contentious relationship with my uterus for some unknown reason, like as though it was her fault, right? Like she literally was just doing her job. And then I started to get really angry with her when fibroids kicked in, again, as though it was my uterus's fault that fibroids developed because most women and people with uteruses have fibroids. It's just a matter of if it, materializes into something that can be really like life altering. And so for me, it showed up in anemia, which then caused incredible fatigue. Like I would just be wiped out. And for folks who know me, I'm a pretty like outgoing and, sociable, like, energetic person. And it just like took me out. I was laid out for a while. And so that's when I started to realize that it was really inhibiting me and preventing me from leading the life that I wanted to lead. And then the anemia obviously can cause other concerns as well. And so I was actually scheduled to have the surgery before in January of this year. And I, at the time, was trying to listen to my body, and it felt very invasive and felt like a very like Western medicine approach, like, oh, just take everything out, and I'd heard horror stories, including from my own family, about folks having hysterectomies a little bit against their consent or without having the full range of information at their ready. And so I think I just like politically and then also just, spiritually was really opposed to it. And then stuff just got worse, like around, I would say like April, I just started to bleed profusely and it just wasn't stopping. And to the point where I almost had to go to the ER one night because I was like, how much blood is normal to lose before it's like unsafe? And so I've been put on at that time, an extra, some heavy dose of estrogen to see if that would curb the bleeding. That worked for a while and then it stopped working. And then, so then I was switched over to a progesterone, which was working for a while, and then that also stopped working. And so then I finally decided that a hysterectomy was in order. And so I was in consult with my OB-GYN and the surgical OB-GYN, who were just incredibly knowledgeable and just validating and affirming. And this time when the OB-GYN said, I think maybe a hysterectomy is in order, I listened to my body and I felt myself really like relax into the decision. And so that's when I knew that it was the right decision for me, the one that I was making with my, my full faculties and, uh, my ancestors and my source and my inner knowing, and a felt sense of just feeling what's right for my body. And so I went in 2 weeks ago today, and everybody was just really lovely. I was really baffled with how quick they said the procedure would be. But I basically was, got in there in the morning. I went in for the surgery around, I think by the time I went in there, it was like around noon. And then by like 3 something, I was done. So it was really quick. And then I had to recover afterward just for a little bit, but it was a same day procedure. They took out my uterus and my 2 fallopian tubes, and also my cervix, which I didn't even know was a thing that could happen. But they did that because technically speaking, it wasn't really, needed any longer. And so they took that out. They gave me a vaginal cuff. So basically, kind of sewed it together on the top, from my understanding, and then sent me on my way, and was instructed to not lift anything heavy, to lay in bed, but to not exclusively lay in bed, like to get up and walk around, which honestly gave me the motivation to not just be like sloth-like in the bed, because I would have easily. I'm very sloth-like, but them saying, you have to get up and move around in order for your healing, I feel like was spot on. Obviously, they know what they're doing, but I felt like it really sped up the healing process. And so within a couple of days, I was, like up and at 'em. The day after the surgery, the full day after the surgery, the next day I laid pretty much flat and then walked around upstairs, but like back and forth to the bathroom. But then the next day I, actually was able to walk up and down stairs, which I wasn't expecting I'd be able to do, but I was. And then I, just was, still taking it easy, still not lifting anything, but being really careful about laying and getting into the bed, out of the bed, and mostly wanting to make sure that the animals weren't jumping on me, particularly the one cat who just thinks I'm her playground. But I was protected and I was great. And so this past weekend, we actually had gone down to Chincoteague, Virginia, where I had a chance to really relax some more. And it was just a reminder too, being down there and just taking time this past couple of weeks to realize how busy we make ourselves and what it feels like to actually rest and just settle into rest. And so I think, I got laid off in February, and I feel like it's taken me this whole time to actually get to the place where I'm not feeling guilty for laying down. Even after surgery, I feel like I don't want to be a burden and I want to contribute. And I've had to just continue to practice that unlearning of it's okay to rest. It's not only okay, but it's imperative for my health to rest. So yeah, and I'm somebody who preaches it. I'm somebody who preaches, rest and, Trisha Hersey's, rest is resistance and all that. Like it's so much easier to tell other people to do the thing than it is yourself. And so the unlearning continues. But I can say, now 2 weeks after surgery. Okay, let me go back. So what they did for me, and I think what they do for a lot of folks, is they went in robotically in through my abdomen into 5 areas. And then from there, they used the robotic arms to internally then, sever the uterus and the fallopian tubes. And then they removed that through the vagina. and then they, you know, made sure that everything else, I guess, was in working order. I'm completely, obviously, oversimplifying this, but I remember being really shocked and annoyed that I had no idea where ovaries attached to. I just always thought by drawings they attached only to the fallopian tubes, and so without those fallopian tubes, I was confused as to where they would go. Like, do they just like float around there? But no, in fact, they attach to the abdomen wall. So this is why in school they need to do a way better job of teaching folks our anatomy, internal and external, because I had no idea. And I went to school for human sexuality and I didn't know that. And so that was nice to hear. But yeah, so they went in with these incisions internally. And come to find out, the fibroid that I had was the size of a 10 to 12 week pregnancy. It weighed a little bit over a pound, which was insane, to think that there was just this like foreign object in my body floating around. And it had grown significantly since I had gotten it scanned before. So it's just wild to know what your body can endure. And it also explains why I was exhausted all the time. And so, yeah, so they took that out. And right now I was able to take off the external bandages, and what's left now is just the internal stitches, which will obviously just, you know, go away on their own. But I can say, you know, like 2 weeks out, I feel great. I feel like I've been able to have all my normal functioning. I wouldn't say quite yet an increased level of energy, but I definitely do not feel as exhausted as I had felt leading up to the surgery. The other crazy thing that they didn't say would happen that I just want to let folks know about is when I came home for the first, I would say 2 to 3 days maybe, when I would lay down and then go to get up, I literally felt like my internal organs were like shifting around. Like I felt like I could feel it. I don't think it was just psychosomatic. I think they actually were. And it makes sense because there's a whole part of your body that's no longer there. So your organs are like, you know, trying to figure out what happens when you rearrange their furniture. You know, where am I going to sit now? But it was a wild feeling, and yet again, just a reminder of how incredible the body is and how resilient we are. But yeah, that was something that wasn't explained on any document, that I would potentially feel this. It didn't hurt; it just felt bizarre. And so, as though I didn't already have enough respect for people who get pregnant, this just, you know, cemented that even 10 times more, because yeah, the shifts that your body go through to make way for other things is astonishing to me. But yeah, so eventually that went away. I was able to, you know, do all of the things normally pretty quickly afterwards. My appetite came back, which was thankful because I was nervous about that. And now just, you know, healing every once in a while. Like when I go to stand up, it feels like, it's not like pain per se. It just feels like there's a tugging sensation. And so I've been really focused on like pelvic floor exercises, i.e. Kegels, because I'm not trying to have any sort of experience with like a prolapsed bladder or anything like that. They didn't describe that as a possible outcome of this, but I don't want it to get to that point either. And so I'm just going to continue doing Kegels. I'm doing them right now to strengthen my pelvic floor, which is something that we should all be doing anyway. And so, yeah, doing that. And I guess like more than anything, I also just want to yet again send out a, I guess giving permission to people to just do what you need to do to slow down, even if it's just for a few minutes every day, to do what you can to drown out the noise and just really get in touch with your inner wisdom, because it was my inner wisdom that earlier said, you know, to not do the procedure when I did it for whatever reason, right? And it then was my inner wisdom that said, like, no, this is actually the right time to do this. And I was really listening to my body and what I needed. And so my hope would be that other folks out there, particularly women and femmes, that, you know, you do what you can to like practice. It literally is practice every single day, just taking time to pause and to just be with yourself. Even that's just taking 5 minutes in the morning to just take deep breaths and check in with yourself around like, what am I feeling? What am I needing? What is being asked of me right now in terms of like my body? Do I need rest? Do I need movement? Do I need to eat? Do I need true crimes, for example? Um, and then doing what you can to honor that. And I say that with a lot of grace, knowing that not everybody has access to that kind of time. But I do believe that we all have access to even just a few minutes of quiet in our brains to get quiet, because listening to my body allowed me to have this procedure, which I believe is already improving my quality of life. But if I were to listen to my head, I would have not had the procedure, because I would have convinced myself that, you know, I didn't need Western medicine to interfere with my body's natural process, and that I would have, you know, let it figure it out on its own. But sometimes we need a support and assistance, you know, from the resources and tools that are out there. And so luckily my surgeon was incredible, just like really thoughtful and really considerate. I told him that I needed a photo of my uterus and fibroids, so he's going to show me that at follow-up, because I just felt like for spiritual closure, I wanted to just like see what it was that was going on. And so yeah, I guess I'm also just wanting folks to continue to talk about perimenopause, you know, our bodies, you know, as folks who have uteruses, to talk about what the experience is like, to demystify it. When I first heard that they were recommending a hysterectomy, I literally freaked out, because it felt so invasive. It felt so massive, and it felt like something, quite honestly, that folks I would hear get done who are older. But I am older, I'm 51, and so it makes sense that this was something that was recommended for me, especially because I had tried IUD, I had tried, you know, birth control pills and all that, and none of that was working. And so yeah, so listen to your body, take time if you're able to take time, um, to tune in to your own needs, and to try to shut out other things, because we literally are the experts, we're the drivers, we are the conductors in our lives, and we are constantly told from a very early age that we don't know what we're talking about, we don't know what we're thinking or feeling, or we don't know what's best. But we do know what's best. But it's just a matter of taking that moment to pause long enough to hear what it is that is being told to you. So I'll check in again in a little bit, but yeah, just wanted to let folks know that I'm here, I'm alive, I'm so far getting to thriving, and yeah, I'm incredibly grateful. Take care.